Two-Face here, back with another reaction video. This time I'm reacting to Napoleon's Great Blunder, Spain, 1808, from Epic History TV. Now, I'm still doing a series of reacting to this, and as I said probably countless times, that I have heard of Napoleon, but I wasn't very clued up on what his career was like before the Battle of Waterloo, and so I'm here. It's nice to learn and do a reaction to these because they're quite interesting, and Epic History TV does brilliant historical content, and the detail they put into it is amazing. And so yeah, the link to the original video will be in the description down below. Please go subscribe to Epic History TV and show them all the support, and of course check out their sponsors, because they've always got sponsors, so check out their sponsors as well, and any other channels they recommend. So anyway, I've talked too much. Let's get into this. And
an Epic History TV History March collaboration, supported by our sponsor, Osprey Publishing. In the autumn of 1807, French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte dominated Europe.
Yeah.
He had humbled Austria and Prussia,
Austerlitz,
and sealed
Jena,
an alliance with Russia
and Friedland.
Of the major powers, only Britain still defied him, safe from invasion thanks to its powerful navy. Napoleon had ordered all territory controlled by France,
which also helped because of the British Royal Navy with that huge victory at the Battle of Trafalgar, which faced a combined French and Spanish fleet with Lord Nelson at command. Which, even though it was a victory, but it was at the cost of Lord Nelson's life. So, and by the looks of it, the narrator's going into the Berlin Decree of the continental system that Napoleon tried to introduce. So I won't say too much on it, because we're kind of getting a recap. So back to it.
Or its allies, to stop trading with Britain.
Yeah.
The so-called continental system, or blockade, designed to wreck Britain's economy and force its government to make peace. But neutral Portugal had continued to trade with its historic ally, Britain.
Yep.
So Napoleon sent an army under General Junot.
Probably, so far, it looks like Britain's greatest and oldest ally, with never really had a conflict with.
To occupy,
not to my knowledge anyway,
and force it into line. The invasion was supported by France's ally, Spain, though privately Napoleon held Spain's rulers in contempt.
King Carlos IV,
the royal family was
Crown
decadent
Prince Fernando,
and corrupt. The king and crown prince loathed each other.
Wow.
The country was effectively run by Chief Minister Manuel.
I'm not very clued up on the history of Spain, most of Spain's history, so sorry if I'm completely clueless when it comes to Spain's history for the most part. And the fact, if I'm not talking much, it's because of the information I'm taking in. So
Godoy, the Queen's lover.
Marie Louisa.
Spain, Napoleon concluded, was backwards, militarily weak, and incompetently governed.
Oops. Sorry, just realised I wasn't. Sorry about that.
And he devised a plan to seize control of the country.
After long agony, I've seen your pain and I'm bringing you a remedy.
In the spring of 1808, under the pretext of guarding Spain against the British, French troops took up strategic positions around the country.
Sorry, for some reason I wasn't in.
Saw the French military presence as the latest in a long line of humiliations, and held Chief Minister Manuel Godoy responsible.
Sorry about that. I'll just go back. Right. Spaniards, after a long agony, your nation was perishing. I've seen your pain and I'm bringing you a remedy. Proclamation by Emperor Napoleon. Sorry for winding that back. It's just, I just had to make sure that on my OBS that, yeah, that I was still had the video up on the screen, because in my reaction to Epic History TV of Napoleon smashing the Prussians at Jena, for some reason I messed up with the OBS, so that you couldn't see the video, but you can hear it and see my reaction. So
in the spring of 1808, under the pretext of guarding Spain against the British, French troops took up strategic positions around the country.
I'm not sure
The
that's
Spanish people saw the French military presence as the latest in a long line of humiliations, and held Chief Minister Manuel Godoy responsible.
Wow.
There were riots at the palace of Aranjuez. Godoy was nearly lynched.
Jeez.
Napoleon invited the Spanish royal family and Godoy to take refuge in the French city of Bayonne, and sent Marshal Murat and 50,000 troops to restore order in Madrid.
I don't think that sounds like a good idea.
But on the 2nd of May 1808, the people of Madrid rose up against Murat's soldiers. It became known as the Dos de Mayo Uprising, immortalized by the artist Francisco Goya. This scene shows Mamelukes of Napoleon's Imperial Guard attacked by the citizens of Madrid. 100 soldiers were killed. The French responded ruthlessly, shooting down dozens in the streets.
Yeah, somehow I don't think that's going to win the people over.
And executing more than
But what do I know?
a firing squad. Meanwhile, in Bayonne, Napoleon forced King Carlos to abdicate and bestowed the title King of Spain on his own brother, Joseph.
Wow. That's really not going to win the people over. Who is the enemy of your happiness? Napoleon, Emperor of the French. And what is Napoleon's origins? From evil. Spanish pamphlet. I don't know how... Catechism? I'm not sure how to say that, so sorry about that.
That summer, as Napoleon forced a new modernizing constitution on Spain, and his brother Joseph entered Madrid as its new king, the Spanish reacted with fury.
I can imagine.
Weren't just arrogant foreigners trampling on their national honor. They were godless atheists who, during the French Revolution, had rejected the Pope and Catholic Church. Napoleon, priests warned the peasants, was the very Antichrist himself. Revolts erupted across the country.
Catalonia, Asturias, Valencia, Andalusia.
French troops and killed collaborators. French soldiers carried out savage reprisals.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to win over the people doing that.
The countless atrocities horrified Francisco Goya and led to his famous Disasters of War series. At first, it seemed the French would easily put down the revolt. Girona, Valencia, and Zaragoza were besieged by French troops, while the Spanish army of Galicia was routed by Marshal Bessières at the Battle of Medina del Rio Seco. But 8 days later, as General Dupont and 3 French divisions withdrew from Cordoba, slowed down by wagons piled high with loot, they were surrounded by General Castaño's army of Andalusia.
I'm not an expert, but I can see the really, angering the Spanish populace for the entire throughout the whole of Spain. But as I said, I'm not an expert in these matters, so apologise if it sounds like a load of crap that I'm talking.
And forced to surrender. The Spanish took 18,000 French prisoners, about half of whom later died of starvation. Berlin was a humiliation for France, her first major defeat since Napoleon became emperor.
Wow.
France's enemies across Europe were delighted. Napoleon was incandescent with fury. The situation went from bad to worse. The Portuguese joined the revolt, while fierce Spanish resistance forced the French to abandon the sieges of Valencia, Girona, and Zaragoza. Spain's new king, Joseph Bonaparte, was even forced to flee the capital.
Wow.
The British assisted the revolt, which the Spanish now called a War of Independence, by shipping weapons to Spain using the Royal Navy. On the 1st of August, a small British army commanded by Sir Arthur Wellesley landed in Portugal to aid their revolt. On the 17th of August, he beat a small French force at Rolissa. Then, 4 days later, beat Junot's main army at the Battle of Vimero.
I'm guessing this is before he becomes the Duke of Wellington. So, and apparently Arthur Wellesley was actually Irish, so it's interesting.
But Wellesley's newly arrived superior, Sir Hugh Dalrymple, then agreed to repatriate Junot and his army to France with all their arms and plunder, using British ships.
That makes no
In
sense.
Britain, the generous terms were seen as a disgrace and scandal.
Wow.
A subsequent inquiry exonerated Wellesley, the future Duke of Wellington, but
So yeah, it is
never
before.
held command again.
Everywhere where I'm absent, they commit nothing but follies. Napoleon's response to the news of Balian.
Napoleon decided the only way to sort out the situation in Spain was to go there himself. He assembled 100.
Well, that's the only like way that he can sort out is go there himself, even with such a vast empire. Because it seems like only by his command can things work effectively, for the most part, anyway.
30,000 reinforcements, including many of his best troops, and on the 7th of November led a second invasion of Spain.
Wow.
Most Spanish troops were inexperienced, were often badly equipped and led, and their armies had no coherent strategy. They were no match.
And yet Spain, just like Britain, had a formidable navy. Well, in the Caribbean anyway. I'm not sure about everywhere else, so apologise if that offends anyone. Well, too late now, but...
The Grande Armée, which burst across the Ebro River and inflicted heavy defeats on the Spanish at Burgos and Tudela. At Tudela, Marshal Lannes' Third Corps avenged the defeat at Bailén by smashing the army of General Castaños, sending it fleeing in 2 directions. Napoleon pushed on rapidly.
Wow.
North of Madrid, 8,000 Spanish held the mountain pass at Somosierra. Napoleon, impatient to break through to the capital, ordered forward the Polish light horse of the guard.
Wow.
In an attack of almost suicidal bravery, they charged the Spanish guns head-on and enabled the French to take the pass. 4 days later, after Napoleon threatened to obliterate the city, Madrid opened its gates to his army. Unaware of the disaster engulfing Spanish forces, a 20,000-strong British army, commanded by Sir John Moore, had just arrived in Salamanca after a 300-mile march from Lisbon, with another smaller force en route from Coruña. The British army was inexperienced, but in contrast to most Spanish forces, it was well trained, organized, and led. As news reached Moore of the Spanish collapse, he nevertheless planned to divert French forces by attacking Marshal Soult's isolated Second Corps and threatening Napoleon's communications to Burgos and France.
Okay.
At Sagunt on the 21st of December, the British 15th Hussars advanced overnight through winter frost and made a dawn attack on a French cavalry brigade, routing it in one great charge. But as Moore prepared a full-scale attack on Soult's corps, he received news that Napoleon was advancing rapidly towards him with his main army from Madrid.
Wow. I am pursuing the English, sword to their kidneys, Napoleon.
While two French corps under Marshal Lannes began a second bloody siege of Zaragoza, Napoleon saw a chance to get to grips with the British at last. Intending to trap Moore between his own forces and Soult's Second Corps.
Wow.
He force-marched his troops over the icy Guadarrama Pass in the midst of a blizzard.
Oh, that's
facing
risky.
Odds of more than 2 to 1, immediately ordered a retreat,
Smart.
planning to march 250 miles to the coast, where his army could be evacuated by the Royal Navy. For both sides, the race to the sea was an exhausting slog through mountains, mud, and bitter cold.
That's harsh.
Many fell by the wayside as British discipline collapsed, leading to looting and drunkenness, except among the rear guard, which fought several skillful
Black
delaying
Bolt Crawford.
actions and kept the French at bay. Soldiers of Britain's elite 95th Rifles were prominent in these skirmishes. This specialized light infantry regiment wore green uniforms for better concealment and were one of the few units on any side armed with rifles.
Alright.
Unlike the standard smoothbore musket, rifles had spiral grooves in the barrel that spun the bullet as it was fired, making them slower to load, but much more accurate.
Whoa.
In one legendary incident during Moore's retreat at Cacabelos, rifleman Tom Plunkett picked out and shot dead a French
Cacabelos,
general
Leon.
400 yards, some say further. Thanks to the skill of the rear guard and the desperate pace of the retreat, the British kept one step ahead of the French. On New Year's Eve, Napoleon received grave news from Paris. Rumors of plots, and Austria mobilizing once more for
Wow.
war. The Emperor immediately left for France.
That's the thing about having big empire that size. Like, if you haven't consolidated all the power, it's like you go to one end of the empire to sort the major problem out, but then another problem at the opposite end. It's been a thing throughout history, really. Throughout, no matter what empire has been, like the Roman Empire was so massive that it had to be managed by 2 cities and not one. But I won't go too much into that.
Taking many of his best troops with him.
Wow.
And entrusted Marshal Soult and Second Corps with finishing off the British. The pursuit continued, but on the 11th of January 1809, Moore's ragged army reached Coruña. For Sir John Moore's exhausted army, the Spanish port meant supplies, rest, and the prospect of rescue. But few ships were there to meet them on the 11th. Fortunately, the British had been able to blow up bridges behind them to delay Marshal Soult's advance.
Clever.
And 3 days later, on the 14th of January, the naval transports arrived, allowing Moore to begin embarking his cavalry and artillery.
Wow.
But the very next day, Soult's army appeared on the hills south of Coruña, taking up positions on the heights of Peñasquedo, where he sighted his main battery of cannon. Half of Moore's army deployed in a defensive line 2 miles south of the city, with 2 divisions held back to protect his right flank. Both armies were roughly 16,000 strong. The French had 4 regiments of dragoons, while the British cavalry was already aboard ship. But the broken terrain of walls, hedges, and olive trees made it a battlefield ill-suited to cavalry. Soult's plan was to attack the British right flank and trap Moore's army against the sea. Around 2 p.m, the French artillery opened fire. Then Mermet's infantry division advanced, supported by Lahusse's dragoons on his left. Moore had been unsure if Soult would attack, and had just ordered Paget's division to begin embarkation. Now he hurriedly cancelled that order, ordering Paget instead to bring up his men to reinforce his open flank, and Fraser's division to take up position on the heights of Santa Margarita. The French advanced through hedges and over walls, with heavy firing from skirmishers on both sides. Then the British counterattacked. The 42nd Highlanders and 50th Foot charged into the village of Elvina and drove the French out. But in confused fighting, they in turn were soon pushed back to their own lines. Sir John Moore was close to the front line, observing developments, urging on officers and men. But as he ordered up the Guards Brigade to reinforce the line, he was hit in the shoulder by a cannonball.
Ugh.
He remained conscious, but it was obvious the wound was fatal, and he was carried back to the city. Soult sent forward Merle's division to support the attack on Elvina. Scottish General Sir John Hope had taken over command of the British army from the dying Moore, and he ordered forward 2 battalions of infantry to meet the French attack. Paget's division, led by skirmishers of the 95th Rifles, arrived to shore up the British right flank. The terrain was so bad for horses that French dragoons chose to dismount and fight on foot, but were slowly pushed back by the British. Paget's advance threatened the flank of Mermet's attack on Elvina, and he too was forced to withdraw, while an attack on the right by Delaborde's infantry secured a foothold in the village of Piedralonga, but got bogged down in heavy skirmishing. Around 6 p.m, dusk fell, and firing died out across the battlefield. News that the British line had held reached Moore shortly before he died in Coruña, around 8 p.m. That night, the British lit campfires and posted sentries, then silently withdrew to Coruña to begin embarkation. The next morning, the French found the enemy positions abandoned, but they were slow to take advantage. It wasn't until noon that they were able to bring up 6 cannon and get them into position overlooking the Bay of Coruña. The British had almost completed their evacuation by the time the French guns opened fire. In a hurried departure, a few British transports ran aground, and 2 were set on fire, but overall, losses were light. A small Spanish garrison held Coruña, waiting until the British fleet had escaped to sea, before surrendering.
I hope the people of England would be satisfied. I hope my country would do me justice. Last words of Sir John Moore.
Whether Moore's retreat to Coruña was a British disaster or miraculous escape is still debated.
I would choose miraculous escape.
Did he abandon Spain in its hour of need, or draw off Napoleon's main force, buying time for others? Either way, Britain's only army had been saved and would return to fight another day, while Napoleon now faced the prospect of a long war on the Iberian Peninsula and renewed conflict with Austria, a war on 2 fronts that would challenge his empire like never before. Napoleon had blundered in Spain, but it was years before the scale of his mistake was evident. Then he would say, "I embarked pretty badly on this affair, I admit it. The immorality showed too obviously. The injustice was too cynical. The whole of it remains very ugly." If you'd like to learn more about the Peninsular War or any of the campaigns across Europe, our sponsor Osprey Publishing has nearly 200 titles.
Please check out their sponsors.
Written by specialist historians and covering everything from the history of elite units to tactics, weapons and uniforms. Visit their website to find out more. Thanks to the YouTube channel History March.
And that'll do it. This is another interesting video from Epic History TV, and as I said, if you've seen Epic History TV's channel, you'll know what you're talking about. So again, this is an interesting video. If you like this reaction, please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
For the battle map and animation.